Hey, good evening, everybody. It is Steve with Real Progressives. Tonight, having done a great interview with Warren Mosler and Steve Keen, there were some technical problems, but I think that the overall was really, really worth it. But I want to talk tonight. Tonight is a solo act, solo gig, walking down Experience Lane, and talking about a subject that is near and dear to me, and that is the subject of walking in another person's shoes. So as a former Republican, I oftentimes found myself judging people. It was one of those things where as a Republican, a lot of what you're living in is trying to protect your tax dollars, and you're also trying to look down at other people. It's not like intentional. It's not like bad. It's just the way it is. And so in Republican circles, a lot of this judgment stuff, especially in Judeo-Christian circles, a lot of judgment, a whole lot of judgment, a whole lot of scapegoating, and a whole lot of looking at people in this little snapshot. You get this little window of time, and you make an entire assessment about their entire person, start to finish. So as a Republican in that world, back then, it was part of the course. It was the way you talked to each other. There was a lot of judgment. There was also a lot of acceptance, though, about bad people. It was kind of like a weird dichotomy, if you will. But one of the things that I kept hearing way back then was how liberals and progressives, they don't do that sort of thing. Liberals and progressives, they don't do that sort of thing, right? Because liberals and progressives are supposed to be enlightened, and they're supposed to be so sensitive and aware of the way that they're behaving, and they're supposed to be understanding the fact that people are people, and that sometimes people do things that they wouldn't otherwise do, right? And so you would expect that progressives who understand how racism works, you would understand that progressives who understand how poverty works, and you would expect that progressives who understand how sometimes poor kids get bad raps because poor kids are stuck in bad situations, where you'd expect progressives to behave possibly a little bit differently. But unfortunately, what I've experienced, and I just want to be real clear here, progressives have come to destroy people. Progressives have decided that they want to be the new Republican on so many levels. Progressives have stopped and no longer giving a pause to making a character assassination. All they have to do is hear it on social media. All they have to do is talk to somebody. And in that short little conversation, they know all they need to know about that person. They know all they need to know, and they don't require any further information. They've already signed your death warrant. They've already excommunicated you from the club, and they already don't want anything more to do with you. This is no joke. It is a friggin' horrible, horrible blemish on the progressive community. As a progressive, as someone who wears the title Real Progressive and wears it proudly, it is extremely painful to watch the kind of hatred and the kind of backbiting and sniveling and just low rent kind of trashy behavior that I've seen from many in our movement that literally take great pride in trying to destroy people. You can see them in their little cliques, talking, hanging around the fireplace, hanging around the fire pit, chatting up about people, gossiping, talking trash. And you wonder what is in it for them, right? Why, if you're trying to produce a society that is truly progressive, a society where people have redemption and they have the ability to get back into the American dream, and they have the ability, why is it that progressives, especially the elite type, they want to throw disparaging remarks at you? They want to sit there and throw hot coals on your head. I don't understand it. I really, really don't. And I'll be honest with you. I've gotten to the point now where I expect horrible treatment from people in the progressive community. This is no joke. I expect bad behavior anymore. I don't expect, unfortunately, to see people pulling together, fighting for a New Deal. I don't expect to see people pulling together to try and enlighten one another and help each other. I now have grown to the point where I expect progressives to literally try to destroy one another, online in particular, but in real life even still. You know, Real Progressives is, a perfect example of this. We have almost 100 volunteers that directly work with us, and we've got many, many other followers. We've got over 120,000 followers, and, we're involved in a lot of things. But there are groups, there are backbiting, little sniveling groups that sit there and talk. They don't really talk to you, but they talk amongst each other about you. And eventually, the lore that they tell over a beer or two at some club ends up becoming the story of your life. And then it's repeated, and it's repeated some more. And it's repeated so often that eventually it becomes the narrative. And the worst part about that is that if you try to defend yourself, you're punching down. If you try to defend yourself, you're reinforcing their beliefs about you. If you try to defend yourself, you're just obfuscating, you're just deflecting, you're just something else. There's this box they put you in. It's part of call-out culture. It's part of this whole holier than thou, like ideologically immature children that sit there and huddle together and cast aspersions. So I have come to this belief that there are no good people in the world. People are people, right? People come in, they screw up. People go out, they do good. You never get the exact snapshot of who they are because there is no such thing as a snapshot that defines a person. I can wake up tomorrow morning, decide to start my day a different way, and I could be a totally different person by noon, just like you can. But there are people who will literally hold you. You could have a bad day. Maybe your dog died. Maybe you lost something important. Maybe you got fired at your job. Maybe you ended up finding out you're going to lose your job or you're going to lose your home. And they only see you for this little window of time. And they box you into that trash. They box you into that trash and they don't let you out. That's who you are forever in their eyes. And there's nobody on this earth that should have to go through that. There's nobody that should have to deal with people talking behind the scenes and then coming into a situation and acting as if it's pure fact. There is nobody on the planet that should have to deal with such gaslighting and abuse. And as much as people try to act like they're the bigger person in the room, sometimes the holier than thou approach is nothing more than abuse of a different flavor. And that, my friends, is exactly what has eaten our movement alive. You get so goddamn holy that you know earthly good. You can no longer help people because you've elevated yourself so high that you're always judging, always stepping back. I'm going to have to take a step back and assess and view you and check you out and observe everything about you. I'm going to have to determine whether you're worthy of my presence or not. And I'm seeing it over and fucking over again. And I'm bloody well pissed. Because this scourge is what's going to keep my autistic son from getting the treatment he needs. Because progressives are the ones that have to be the ones that carry the water up the hill to win it for everybody, even the bad people. We've got to be the ones that carry the water up the hill to save humanity and the planet. That's the progressive call. But then you've got those people, these little elitists that they don't have a test. They've never lived a testimony. But damn it, if they don't have a story to tell about you. Now, never mind the fact that I've got so many stories, I could have volumes of testimonies. That's not because I want that. Trust me when I say this. There is nothing I'd rather than to have been a pampered kid that had no troubles. But that isn't my story. My story came one of pain and suffering. Okay? My story was overcoming. My story wasn't one of being spoon-fed with a silver spoon. Yes, I had family that loved me, but let me tell you for real, I've been through some horrible shit in my life. And I've overcome more than most people ever experience. That's no joke. But yet if you see me at a bad moment, you can suddenly take Steve Grumbine and you can put him back 25 years when he was still going through the throes of everything wrong in his life. And you can make him go full PTSD back to that moment and keep him in a box. Just like we can do to any one of you all. Just like they will do to anyone that doesn't fit in their little box. This is no joke. I'm telling you right now, there are acquaintances and friendships and parallel relationships with organizations, you name it, that I'm beginning to question top to bottom. Why is that? Because I no longer believe in their integrity. I believe that they think they are better than everyone else and that their goal in life is to judge your worthiness. And I don't want to be around people like that. I would rather serve food in a trashy alley and be with people and help them than sit there and hang out with people whose sole goal in life is to be a little bit better than you and freaking castigate you and literally shit on you and bury you for whatever their reasoning is. For whatever their reasoning is, I don't want to be like that. Now, I can tell you something. If you're not a doormat, if you don't just say yes and fall face first on the ground and let people walk all over you, if you resist their position, if you don't go with their position, they're going to knock you down. They're going to say you're authoritarian. They're going to say all kinds of other stuff because there's these shut down arguments that are in the movement. These words, these concepts, these shut down approaches to conversation that literally demean you and cut your legs out from under you and stop you from being able to have a voice. And let me tell you something. Having a voice is about the only thing some people have in this world. They may not have money. They may not have a home. They may not have an education. They may not have clothes on their back. But as long as they have a voice, they feel like they have something to offer. And many of these people would gladly shut that shit down. Always judging, always scowling, always observing and considering whether you're worthy. Whether you're worthy of their friendship, whether you're worthy of their time, whether they deem it worthy to respond to you, whether they deem it worthy to be around you or even consider you as a human being. Our movement can't survive like this. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how credentialed you are. I don't care how sweet your parents are. If you are the kind of person that sits there and scowls and judges people without realizing the fullness of their experience, Mr. and Mrs. Enlightened, their experience, not yours, theirs. You have no idea where they came from, and if you do, then you can't take a snapshot and make a fucking story about who they are and wreck their entire existence. See, I'm telling you right now, I've seen people kill themselves. That's right. I've seen people literally kill themselves because of this kind of bullshit. I've seen people kill themselves in middle school. I've seen people in high school die. I'm serious. One of the girls that I grew up with shot herself in middle school. Devastating. Her poor sister never recovered from it. I've seen people hanging. I've seen people overdose on heroin. I've been around people in the lowest places and watched them fall away and die because of bullying and mean kid shit. The mean kid club, you know? They think they're holier than thou, though. God damn it, they think they're right as rain. But they're not. They're so right, they're wrong. And they're a cancer when they do this stuff. Their behavior is the true toxicity. They talk about the toxic this, the toxic that, the narcissist, the this, the that. Let me explain something to you. Always scowling, always judging. always keeping you in the Heisman Trophy with their arm out, blocking from any embrace, keeping you outside of that little comfort zone, right? Always making sure you know your otherness, making you feel otherness. Our movement is plagued with this. And it's a damn shame, because this is the kind of stuff that prevents movements from really building. You want to be inclusive. Well, guess what? Everybody isn't wired the same way. Oh, everybody isn't wired the same way. That's your story. But then what about the other story when it says everybody's not wired the same way? Well, as long as their wiring doesn't conflict with your wiring, then it's okay for everybody not to be wired, right? But what happens when somebody has a different spin on something? What happens when somebody sees things a little bit differently? What happens when you take somebody else's story that you don't know firsthand and try to turn it into your story as you sit there and beat someone down and try to destroy their existence, tear down their integrity, and say things about them that are completely bullshit? I'm telling you all, every time you like somebody doing call-out culture posts, every time you like and share and talk shit about somebody on Facebook, you are leaving a little bit of death in the community. You're destroying any potential of this movement succeeding. You're harming people directly. For 3 years, I've lived this experience. Somebody says, Steve called so-and-so a C word. First things first, I don't use the C word. But somebody says it, and then all of a sudden things start happening behind the scenes. All of a sudden things start happening behind the scenes, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? Gossip, chit-chat, sneaky doors, back doors, chit-chat, backdoor dealing. And all of a sudden, you've got a real problem on your hands now. All of a sudden, the little snickety snacks in the back, chit-chatting away. And all of a sudden, the groupthink kicks in. Oh, wow. Did he say that for real? Oh, my God. That is so wrong. Oh, my God. What about... Did you see his eyes? They look like dead serpent eyes. Oh, my God. Does he even have a soul? This is the... I'm not even joking. If I was joking, you'd see me smiling. I'm not joking. Over and over again, when you ask people to communicate and talk to one another, some people take that as an attack against their person. But communication is everything in this world. It's about all we have. It's all we have. That's why you watch television. That's why you go to a concert. That's why you go to a bar and hang out. That's why you come to social media. That's why you have talk over dinner. That's why you go to church. That's why you go to whatever community groups you're in, to communicate, to socialize, to be a part of something. And when people decide in their little snapshot, their little window of time, that you're unworthy of being a part of that, when they decide that you are unworthy, they've killed a little bit of humanity once again. And it's easy, because this is what the people say, right? This is what they tell you when you're being kicked in the teeth. Just ignore them. They're missing out. And that's great. That's good talk. But it hurts, doesn't it? It fucking hurts. It hurts right here, right smack dab in the heart. And then you feel your heart beating in your ears. And then you feel that warm feeling of depression pour over your body. And then you lay on the couch, zoning off on the ceiling, wondering what you could have fucking done to be so reviled. And then all of a sudden you realize it's time to go to work and you haven't slept. And you feel your heart beat in your ears. And the world is spinning because you're too goddamn tired to go to sleep. And you can't go to work. And you can't do anything. And now you're a zombie. And now you're going to the next thing. And now you make new enemies because you're too tired to handle the day's work ahead. And then you come home and your family's angry at you because you're tired and you're not doing things right and you're not saying things exactly as you would like to. And now you're in trouble there too. And the snowball effect becomes a fucking avalanche. This is what happens when people do this stuff. This is what happens. It's not just, oh, free speech, man. Everybody can say what they want. No. This stuff has real consequences. It has real fallout. And it's too easy to give yourself a pat on the back and a pass. Say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Why not just not do it? Why not just not do it? Why make bold, sweeping accusations and nasty comments when in reality, you don't know what you're talking about? You came in late, you made a bunch of comments, you haven't been around that person their whole life, you don't know who they are. Who are you to make a call out for them that kind of puts them in a box? Who are you to do that? Who are you to do that? If you ever want to see the kind of change that we need in this country, you can forget the voting booth. A lot of this stuff starts right here in your own heart and between your ears. A lot of this stuff is about being a human being and treating one another with respect and dignity. I'm telling you right now, you know, I have woken up many a morning wondering why the hell I keep doing this. I'm serious. I couldn't be more serious. I have woken up in the morning saying, what the hell am I doing? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm so sick to death of people saying nasty things and thinking they can get away with it and getting away with it. I am sick to death of people thinking they can say whatever they feel like saying, destroying people's character, destroying their integrity, destroying their reputation, destroying their effectiveness of their... It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And when I see people claptrapping in those kind of threads, when I see people joining in like hyenas, it disgusts me. And when I was working, I used to be a senior sales engineer. Us senior sales engineers, we used to fly all over the country, first class, man, living large. We would go out there, we were selling $1 million widgets, routers, switches, hubs, optics, you name it. Didn't matter what we were selling. We were selling circuits. We were selling systems. And we were golfing a lot. We were silver preferred, gold preferred, platinum flying, air miles, you name it. 5-star dinners, 5-star hotel rooms, great sales kickoffs, all the bells and whistles. But they didn't know what they didn't know. And you're sitting there hanging out with everybody. And they're like, do you see that guy over there with the single wide trailer? What the fuck, man? You got to be some kind of loser to be in a single wide trailer, right? And I'm like, I don't know if you realize this or not, Homesickle, but even though I got all these pieces of paper behind me saying I'm one of you, I live in a single wide. Not anymore, but then I did. I lived in a single wide because I was going through a divorce. Couldn't afford it. But they were too busy laughing at the people in a single wide. They were joking. They thought it was funny. But there I was sitting there waiting to wreck the joke. Waiting to wreck the joke. Telling them point blank, hey man, I live in one of those 1-bathroom single wides with walls so thin you can hear a fart in the other room. Yep, that's me. So I've been around this. I've watched it my whole life. No matter how humble you want to be, these privileged people, they have no problem whatsoever talking shit behind your back and throwing you under the bus. And then the low people, the people on the bottom who are mean and nasty now, they do it too. They're hurting. But they do it too. The other ones, they're desperate to appear like they've got it going on. They're desperate to be one of the people that got it going on. So they want to join in the I got it going on conversation that puts down the people that don't have it going on. Been there, done that, read the sequel. And I'm always there to let them know, hey man, I'm not the guy you want to have that conversation with, I promise you. I'm just not that guy. You do not want to have that conversation with me because I will tell you what I think about it. Now, I'm not here to put heaping coals on them and end them for life, but I will not put up with people doing that. And here's the other thing too. Somebody tries to do something you know is incorrect, something that's wrong, and you stand up for yourself and you say, hell no, you're not doing that. Nowadays, the new norm is to say, well, you're authoritarian when you say no. Hell no. Well, this authoritarian tag is a new shutdown argument to try and block people from standing their ground. It's a way of diminishing someone's conviction. It's a way of trying to drive a wedge between them and common sense. When you sit there and you feel your spidey senses going off and they're saying, this ain't right, something ain't right. No, I'm not going along with it. When you say that and you see people come back with you are authoritarian. This is the shutdown effect. And this is once again another tactic that has nothing to do with dealing with each other straight. Has nothing to do with facts. It has everything to do with using buzzwords that are meant to be shut down arguments to put you in a box, diminish your person, and rob you of your stamina to hold your ground on something you believe you are standing up for in the correct way. I could give you a list of things a mile long that are happening in this movement today. I've had friends, groups, different parties that we've worked with. They hear somebody say, well, Steve is this, or they say so-and-so is that. And all of a sudden, that entire crew decides, hey, they're a bad actor. We can't be around them anymore. And I'm telling you right now, I try not to get in the mud with people. I'm serious as a heart attack. I don't like it. I don't do it. I don't want to be in call-out culture. But I will talk in vague terms to make sure that the point is made. Because I don't believe in throwing people under the bus. Even when I can't stand them. Even when they've hurt me, I don't want to throw them under the bus. Because they may have just been having a bad day. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to forget. Because if you're not willing to own your stuff, if you're not willing to be accountable, if you're not willing to make right, make amends, then what's the point? An apology without a real honest-to-God acknowledgement and an amends is nothing. More importantly, doubling down on false accusations or smears, or worse, putting someone in a box from a snapshot in time and trying to make that their entire existence, not a healthy way to live and not a healthy thing for this movement. And I'm telling you right now, keep your eyes open. Look around for people doing this stuff. If you see me do it, I'm asking you, come in my inbox and say, Steve, man, I saw you do something. You're grown up. You do what you want, but I didn't think that was cool. I'm going to listen. I'm going to say, hey, man, you know what? Thank you. I'm sorry. I probably could have handled that better. But if you come at me, chances are my resistance is going to flare up. Why is that? Because I have dealt with this shit so much day in, day out that I've got no fat to burn, at least in terms of patience with dealing with critique, with dealing with the nastiness. I've got zero room to give on backhanded bullshit. I just don't have it anymore. I've lost it. I need to recharge my batteries so I can put up with more of it, I guess. But for right now, I'm at my threshold. I've hit that point. Can't take anymore. That's why I'm doing this live stream. It's cathartic to get it out. It's important to get this stuff out. It's healthy to get this stuff out. You know, there's a saying in the program that I'm in that says, half measures availed us nothing. And it also said, when we're wrong, promptly admit it. And make amends, direct amends, except when to do so would injure them or others. And I'm not others, so if it injures me, too bad. I've got to make amends where I've done harm. And I'm telling you right now, I try my best to make up for the sins of my yesteryear by doing Real Progressives. Real Progressives is kind of like my vehicle for purging the demons of alcoholism and everything else I've ever been through. I know my shortcomings. I know who I am. I take a fearless and thorough inventory of myself on a daily basis. Part of my maintenance and staying sober. So I don't require somebody else coming in and giving me that kind of kick in the mouth. But if you need to do it, man, knock yourself out. I got broad shoulders, but I am absolutely at my threshold right now. So maybe give it a week or so. Maybe give it a week or two before you come at me, bro. In any event, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being part of my life, for being in this political, economic, and spiritual journey that we're all on together. I want to thank you all for participating and being human beings, failed, flawed human beings that make mistakes every day, just like me. And I love you all for that. And I love you guys for sticking around and sticking with us, because we're going to do great things. In very, very short order, Real Progressives is going to become a 501c3. We submitted the paperwork this past week, and we will be a nonprofit. The hope is that by being a nonprofit, we'll be able to accept donations, they'll be tax deductible, and we will be able to take on the groups like the Pete Peterson Foundation and the Koch brothers. Big ideas, right? They're huge, right? Us little ankle biters, you know? But if we do this right, I believe we can fight for the 99% and win. So I want to get our mental state right. I want to get our spiritual state right. And I want to get our economic state right. And I think that that's as in you and I and all the team. Even if you aren't a volunteer at Real Progressives, you're part of our family. And we love you and we thank you for your continued support. But we're going to need it more than ever coming up. And I just want to thank you guys for believing in us all these years. And I look forward to working with you for many more. So if you got anything out of this talk tonight, great. I'm not going to lie. A lot of it was for me to get it out of my system. But I believe there were a few nuggets of gold in there, hopefully, that will help somebody else out, help you understand that words matter and that you can really hurt people. And that people are not a snapshot in time. They're the entirety of their existence, both the good and the bad. And it's wrong to put them in a box and then forever excommunicate them. It's a sign of privilege to believe that you can be that way, and I'm not going to support that. So I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives, thanking you once again for being with us. Have a great night, everybody.